Well, a very, very happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is January 3rd of 2026. On today's episode, we will be reviewing and previewing the AFC and NFC Championships as the Patriots will take on the Broncos and the Rams take on the Seattle Seahawks. We will also preview SmackDown, which will be on USA Network later this evening, as well as Saturday Night Main Event, as there's only 3 matches scheduled tomorrow night that will be available on Peacock. That will be held in Montreal. So we'll talk about that and more. I want to kick things off and give you a little bit of a schedule update here. As you may know, if at least for majority of the states, depending where you're listening to this from or watching this, that a part of the United States is going to be encountering some heavy weather. And this is going across states as far as like Texas and Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, parts of Ohio is included. Yes, that's us. All the way out through the East Coast. It's supposed to make its way in, if it hasn't already made its way in some states over the weekend, and it will leave us a layer of snow followed by a sheet of ice and then snow again. And here it's supposed to start Saturday afternoon, go all the way through Monday morning. And I say that for a particular reason, because this is a podcast or a sports talk that happens on a streaming studio, Riverside FM, that requires internet connection in order to accomplish. And so, I don't come from an office. I don't have the top tier tech. I have Spectrum, and there may just very well be, depending how bad this goes, because they're expecting us to hit anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of snow. And I've told you guys this at the beginning of the year. The only reason I would not be able to put on a podcast Monday through Friday is one of few reasons. If I'm sick, if there's no school or daycare, or under extreme weather inclements. And so I say this because there is a good chance that I will not be able to have a podcast Monday or even Tuesday because of this snow and this weather that we're going to get this weekend. It's been cold out here. I got to be honest with you. We're kind of getting this another, hint of snow coming through, another form of winter. And, I live in an apartment complex. They treat our parking lots last. They don't, we have to brush off our cars. So there is a good chance, and our school district are not afraid to take days off because a bus is not able to get 2 kids to pick them up for school. But work, on the other hand, still prevails. So I say that just because depending how it goes, and it's going to be more so daycare situation. If my son doesn't have daycare on Monday, that would be a reason why I couldn't do a podcast. I don't want the interruptions, and we don't have the time or to do all the ins and outs. So I say that just to keep in mind, if you guys are listening to us on a daily basis and you're like, man, where is the next episode on Monday? It's because I'm, something like that happened. Now, look, we're up here in Cincinnati. We're not supposed to get hit hard. Not as bad as a lot of the other states, but trust me, we're still going to get a good chunk of it. Everyone's taking serious measures. I got to actually go out tomorrow morning and grab food for the next couple of days. And then I'm planning to take the kids out for a couple hours and probably to the Children's Museum and let them play around for a little bit before coming back. Because once we come back and once it all starts, we're going to be indoors. And I'll tell you, try to deal with the 2-year-old indoor 5 days a week. Nonetheless, 24 hours. And I hope that the internet service doesn't cut out. I hope, because that's what our cable's on. That's what our phones rely on. That's what the show relies on. That's what his tablet relies on. But I got to tell you, I'm not looking forward to it. I hate it. Probably just as much as anyone else does. Thank goodness I don't have to go out there and endure into it. Kind of one thing that I've grown over the last couple of years is that when I first moved out here about 5-6 years ago, no big deal. Let's just go travel and you take the risk. Kind of as I'm getting older, I'm like, if I can avoid it at all costs, that's what I'm going to do. So I just want to give people a little bit of heads up and to what to expect when it comes to this upcoming week. And if we're not here, here's the reason why. I don't want that to come a shy for you. So I wanted to kick conversations off today about another reaction I have when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds, particularly actually in the Freddie Peralta trade that we saw earlier this week, where we saw Peralta get traded from Milwaukee to the New York Mets in exchange for some prospects. The one thing that I actually learned this week, has to be that Milwaukee, if you're a player that is coming up on contract and you're a solid player, instead of keeping you, they end up trading you and collecting prospects out of it. And that's what happened here. Freddie Peralta was traded to the Mets in return that the Brewers received prospects. Now, Freddie Peralta, to me, is a deadly force to be reckoned with. And Freddie Peralta is, to me, an ace pitcher. Now, of course, Peralta has, Milwaukee has Brandon Woodruff. But the rest of the rotation, how do you feel about it? I mean, they're not no top tier. There were a rotation that did elevate and help themselves to a division championship and even to into the playoffs. But if I'm the Cincinnati Reds, I'm taking a little breath of relief here. I'm telling myself that that's one less person that we have to deal with on a series-to-series basis. And it's not like I'm not encouraged or I'm motivated to have ourselves a good competition. I want good competition. But the Reds could use all the help that they can get. And when you think about Milwaukee coming into town, or us facing them in 4 to 6 series a year, the chances of facing Freddie Peralta comes up probably at least about half of those times. So just imagine facing Freddie Peralta 3 times. Now, the one good thing about facing a pitcher multiple times is you get a sense of what they're capable of. But when he's as impactful, he's elevated, just like what we, and where he's a fierce pitcher to be worried about, a sigh of relief comes when you find out that he's not in the same division. It's similar to, look, I'm not even upset about the Kyle Tucker trade or sign with the Dodgers. You know why? Because it's not in the National League Central. We only have to face the Dodgers 6 to 7 times, 6 to 7 games this season, and we can move on. Now, I don't impose that those 6 to 7 games. I haven't looked at the schedule, so I don't know the exact length. But they're not going to make or break our season, but they are going to still impact us. Now, you take a look at our league. Milwaukee is still expected to be a wild card contender, if not win a division. You got the Cubs that I think imposes a deeper threat than Milwaukee. St. Louis, who is rebuilding, reconstructing their team, and we saw it this offseason. And you got the Pittsburgh Pirates, who they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They could be good, but can they last? That's the question. The Reds struggle tremendously facing their division. And if I could take anything that the Reds do wrong, or anything I want the Reds to improve on, it wouldn't be a power-hitting bat. It wouldn't be base-running aggressiveness. I'd want the Reds to play better against their division. Because ultimately, and I understand that baseball today is designed to where you play less of your division, you play all other teams in the league and interleague action. But what I want is the Reds to have success in their division. Because ultimately, it comes to, if you have a chance at making the playoffs, you have to win your division. Now, we've seen that turn face against the Cubs in recent years, and I like that to continue, although they are improving. But you have to admit that we continue to struggle against teams like Milwaukee, St. Louis, despite their ongoing efforts of rebuilding, and the Pittsburgh Pirates, who also, by the way, have added players to their team. And the reason why the Pirates will never amount to anything is because they are a selling team. They, just like the Reds, they are a little bit more deeper selling team. They are the bottom of the total pool. And, I don't know if there's really a design behind who they pick up and what they just throw guys onto the field, sell some tickets, trade them at the deadline, and hey, if you could head into a wild card while doing so, great. If not, then hey, we'll go back at it and do it again next year. The Reds, who have clearly indicated that we are wild card contenders, that we want to thrive based off of who we have coming into this season, they look to improve from an 83-win season. They look to improve from being swept and being knocked out of the wild card series by the Dodgers. Where does that start? That starts by competing in your division. And look, Freddie Peralta is not going to be in the lineup on a daily basis. He's a pitcher who pitches every 5 days. But when he comes and pitches, he is nasty. And he's one of those pitchers when you see coming up against the Reds, you're just like, ugh, why? I don't even want to tune in. I don't care who we match him up against with. I don't think we're going to win. The fact that he's moved out to a different team kind of says, all right, there's a little bit better chance that we could play or we could take on the other guys in the rotation. Brandon Woodruff, still ugh. But it's a little bit of hope. And maybe just a little bit of hope is what we need to push us a little bit further. Is it too wrong for me to ask that I want to finish in second place this season? And is that not possible? Now, I already know Alex Bregman, the Chicago Cubs. I'm scared facing them. I don't know what we're going to do. I know we have beaten them in the past. I know we have been better than them in recent years. But does that change this year because of Alex Bregman, who in the National League Central right now are sitting at your fan favorites to win? And did Freddie Peralta have a big enough impact to affect the outcome of what Milwaukee's going to hold this year. So, in my opinion, I think this National League Central is kind of opening up a little bit. I still think Chicago's up top. Cincinnati could be there in the mix, depending how they turn out. I think Milwaukee's not completely out of it, but they're moving in the opposite direction. Their thing is about those prospects they picked up is that they're going to be in the minor leagues, which means you got to promote somebody, give someone a new opportunity. Who knows what they're capable of? I strongly feel that AAA and minor league ball clubs are completely different than the pros, major leagues. Same thing for football. College football, just because you've had success doesn't mean anything when you get to the NFL. But the National League Central, I think, has opened up just a little bit. Is it enough for the Reds to take advantage of and capture a secured wild card moment or even a divisional round? Maybe I have high hopes. Maybe I'm talking nonsense, but it's ideal. I think it's fair to even speculate. One thing that I've learned, and you could take, for example, the New York Yankees, is that you can have anyone and everyone under the sun. They go out and they have the Giancarlo Stantons of the world, the Aaron Judge and the Cody Bellinger and the Max Fried, and yet it still does not guarantee you anything at all in the season. It doesn't guarantee you a championship. It doesn't guarantee you a World Series. You have to be able to actually go in and win a World Series. Now, yeah, the Dodgers have done it twice. But coming into this year, what's great about March 26th is that every team has an equal opportunity at winning the World Series. Every team starts at 0-0, and they have an equal opportunity of making the playoffs. Then they have an equal opportunity at becoming the next World Series champion. And just because the Dodgers signed Kyle Tucker, just because they picked up Edwin Diaz, does not mean that they guarantee themselves a World Series victory. They may be the best baseball team on paper, but they got to show that they're the best baseball team out there. They've done it for 2 years in a row. The big question for Major League Baseball heading into 2026 is if they could do it again for the third year, but that does not guarantee them anything. We've seen teams like the Cubs, like the Guardians, like the Royals come in with nobody, with hardly anyone, just speculations that they could be somebody, and they won World Series. Terry Francona, ask him yourself, he's been through it. And so what puts the Cincinnati Reds further away than winning a division, possibly going to a World Series? And moments like this, when a top star from a difficult team, trust me, Milwaukee is a difficult team, leaves, now we may not have to face them at all this year, should be used as a motivational tactic piece to get these guys going for 2026. So I take it as a relief from the Reds. Maybe you should too. All right, before we get going into our next conversation, I want to invite you out to a special Valentine's Day class on February 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. Join Enlighten Studios, hosted by Nikhil Chappell, as they host Paint and Pastries at the Archville in Cincinnati, Ohio. Paint and Pastries is a colorful, casual party atmosphere where you get to sit back, relax, and let your creativity blossom. Step-by-step painting classes are designed with you in mind. Invite your friends and family, enjoy tasty treats. Follow along with their experienced local artists. Never painted before, that's okay. Because these painting sessions are with you in mind. They're good for both groups and private classes for large parties. You can check them out and get your tickets today at tickettailor.com for more information. I encourage you guys to go out. I think it's a marvelous time. It's a wonderful time. Laid back, great experience, and it kicks off one of many different events they have going on for 2026. So check out Paint and Pastries presented by Atlantic Studios, hosted by Nikhil Chappell. Alrighty. Before we get into SmackDown, I wanted to share a story or a little article, not even an article, but Wrestler Votes Radio on Fightful Select kind of made a bold prediction on one of their episodes. And they basically said predicted, sorry, I was just distracted a little bit, that AJ Lee and Becky Lynch will be facing each other at WrestleMania 42. Think about that for a second. And I'm just asking, I want to ask, just curious, is that something that you guys want to see? You want to see AJ Lee and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania? Is that a match on the card that would be a blockbuster deal? Remember, AJ Lee returned back to ring at WrestlePalooza last year. She teamed up with CM Punk in a mixed-gender tag team match who faced Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. AJ Lee also participated in the Women's Survivor Series match, where her team won the match after conquering and beating people like Becky Lynch, Lash Legend, Nia Jax, and so on. She's kind of been away since then, hasn't really made an appearance. Now there is speculations and rumors that she could be headlining a WrestleMania match card along with Becky Lynch. One of the questions that is tied along to that is, will the Women's Intercontinental Championship will be involved some way or some sort? So I say this, and let me get to my next conversation because they're going to tie it along to each other. Bayley went out and said something, made a comment on Fightful, and she basically shared her expressions when it comes to WWE live events. Okay? And I want to read it here. I guess I have to get up to it. I don't know what's going on. Uh-oh. There we go. So let me just get to it. Basically, she was going on and saying, all right, so let me actually read to you a little bit of what she says. This is credited. I want to give credit out to Fightful for the transcript. I want to for the quote above. She said, "For someone like me, yes." Okay. Bayley was asked if cutting down on live events has helped preserve her body. She said, "For someone like me, yes, because I've been here for my first 8 years on the main roster. I was on every single live event, thankfully. It was tough, and around year 5 or 6, Charlotte and I would be like this. They need to put someone else on here so they can help and learn how to do it. I understand they needed the star power and experienced woman and sell tickets. So we're on everything. It was really brutal. Now, when I look back on it, I miss them. I feel it helps with longevity and keeps up and stays relevant is because we had that experience. It's very different than TV. TV is stressful. You have to hit these times and camera angles. Sometimes you don't always have a match on TV. It could be a promo or backstage. But if you get your reps in on the live events, it makes the world of a difference. So the reason why I bring this up, because this hasn't been an ongoing thing in the WWE for quite some time. And I remember just a few years back, we would talk about this and point out our pet peeves. Our pet peeve indicated that WWE kept bringing back alumni in order to fill in match cards. And so an event like Saudi Arabia, where they're paying top tier dollars, they're going to get anyone who they want to use and see. So even if you don't like that match card, you're going to get it. You don't want to see The Rock, you're going to get The Rock. You don't want to see The Undertaker, you're going to get The Undertaker, despite him being retired. But that's because that's what business calls for. But in recent years, this shift changed where we're seeing less live events, and it may have started affecting skilled performers and the use of talent. Now, I've always liked live events. Things could happen. I've seen title change hands on live events. And for someone like Bayley, and for some of these younger talented people like Maxine Dupree, Lyra Valkyria, they can benefit a weekly use of a live event, like Bayley just mentioned on this, on this result. You get your live reps each and every week on Raw. There's 52 Raws a year. There's 52 SmackDowns, 52 NXT, almost 52 premium live events, maybe a little bit more. But if you're lucky, you get to be on once a week. But it's not always in the ring. And if all you're doing is being on live TV, how are you, and you're not even in the ring every day of the week, then how are you bettering your skill? And for someone who needs, because trust me, everyone needs to help polish their skills. You use these live events for rivalries, for matches. I remember during the winter tour just a few weeks ago, before the build-up, as the build-up took place for Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, we saw pictures and footage of the winter meeting, these winter tours, where Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre were in the ring each and every time under a different stipulation. And I think that just builds to embark, getting to know your opponent, getting to know their skill level, getting to know their moves, their placements in the ring. And when now you take that and you put that on television, you're getting your best product because they are now well experienced with each other. And so for me, I'm the one who likes I'm the one who likes live events. Hitting those cities that won't get a live television show. Hitting those cities that, on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, that could keep you relevant, keeps those storylines going, and keeps those people fresh throughout the summer, throughout the winter time. And I feel like the WWE needs to bring them back. I feel like it should be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal, or a Saturday or Sunday. Nothing during live event. You shouldn't. This is, if I was booking, if I was running it, there has to be a balance. And I agree. So I say Saturday and Sundays. Don't have them on a PLE event. So, like, for example, Saturday night main events tomorrow, you don't have a live event somewhere else. Because you want everyone watching your Saturday night main event. And you take that away when you have a live event on that date. You could have You can work on these younger talent skills. Balance it out. That's what I say. Use everybody. If you want to see Bailey, you can't see. Oh, well. You have a lesser crowd, you have a lesser crowd. But they work on their skill. Maybe have it at smaller venues. But I say that because I feel like the time that you have in the ring is limited for an athlete right now. And then a match card like AJ Lee and Becky Lynch at the grandest stage of them all, where you're bringing someone back who has really not really competed in the last decade, going against a alumni and a future Hall of Famer and Becky Lynch. Is that what's best for business, for the product, or for viewership? And that's the question I ask. You see, as a fan, I love AJ Lee and Becky Lynch. I think it is a WrestleMania match. By all means, I think it's well worth it. And sure, even put the Intercontinental Championship on the line. I think AJ Lee, if she were to win a title, that could be a nice little small title run she has. I'm all for it. But just let me remind you that if you have that match, you take away from somebody else who could use the time or could use the promotion in the ring during WrestleMania. Becky Lynch is at the part of her career where she should be giving back. And I know she does, okay? She just got done through a feud with Maxine Dupree, and I think that's great. Now it's Natalia's turn. Understandable. But I would use this time to give back to somebody else and work with a younger person in the ring that can use an experience match like this one. Because let's face it, any female coming up can use a match against Becky Lynch and mean a lot. So for me, it's a bit controversial because, yes, one hand, I want to see this match. The other hand, I think it takes away from building somebody up. Charlotte Flair did it last year. Tiffany Stratton needed that little edge, needed that little push. Charlotte took her to WrestleMania. And Tiffany Stratton was put on the map because of that, to be honest. So, but I don't know. Would you guys, I think best for business, I think everyone would agree that AJ Lee, Becky Lynch is a match for WrestleMania. Help put the title on the line. Fine by me. But when you look at the overall picture, that's one person or even two people that don't get a chance to perform at WrestleMania, that doesn't get a chance to improve their skill set and make a name for themselves. And Becky Lynch and AJ Lee is not the future down 5-10 years from now. How do you build? How does this storyline, how does this moment build for somebody 5-10 years down the road? Does it solidify their Hall of Fame fate? That's the only thing I could think of, to be honest. So you understand where I'm coming from, point of view wise? I don't know. What do you guys think? SmackDown is tonight. It's going to be held in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. We have a couple things going on tonight as we will see the WWE Tag Team Championships on the line. The Wyatt Six will take on the MFTs. And I think this is going to be a fun match. Over the last couple weeks, they've been brawling out. Really love these brawls, these carried away brawls. But the biggest part of this storyline is going to be the lantern. Who knew that an object, last time I saw an object that played a significant role in an outcome of a match or a feud, had to be the Undertaker's urn. I remember CM Punk, and I want to say, this was almost nearly a decade ago. CM Punk, when he had his feud with the Undertaker, he stole the Undertaker's urn and used that, and it was fed into the storyline, and so I think this only elevates and captivates it even more. I think people who don't understand the meaning behind it need a little bit more understanding. And I'm looking forward to this chaos. I really want carnage on this, and both teams can execute that. We will also see the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match. It's a number one contender match. It's a three-way or six-woman triple threat match as Nia Jax and Lash Legend will team up to take on Kiana James and Julia, and will take on Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Now, we already know tomorrow on Saturday Night Main Event, we will see the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships on the line as Rhea Ripley and Io Sky will defend those titles against Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. So I'm assuming this will also take place at the Royal Rumble coming up here next weekend. Nathan Frazier takes on Johnny Gargano. This comes after the confirmation that Tommaso Ciampa will not be renewing his contract with the WWE once it expires. Trick Williams will take on Damian Priest, and AJ Styles will attend SmackDown as requested Nick Aldis to appear. So an interesting 3-hour episode of SmackDown begins tonight at 8 p.m. on Peacock. I encourage you guys to check it out. Also, tomorrow night on Peacock, well, there's actually a USA Network. Tomorrow night on Peacock at 8 p.m. Eastern Time in Montreal, we would have the number one contenders fatal four-way match. The winner of this match will go on to face Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. You got Randy Orton taking on Trick Williams, taking on Damian Priest, and facing Sami Zayn. We have a grudge match as Cody Rhodes looks to get even from Jacob Fatu, costing him the WWE Championship match a couple weeks ago. We also have the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match, as Rhea Ripley and Io Sky will defend their titles against Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. You know, nothing too surprising. Cody Rhodes, Jacob Fatu. I think it could be a draw either way. I would like to see either Damian Priest or Randy Orton win, or even, hell, Sami Zayn for that matter. I think I could see that happen. You want to give a young upcoming star a push. Trick Williams is somebody who you can have win, face Drew McIntyre, lose, I'd presume. And then I would also keep the titles on Rhea Ripley or Io Sky. Maybe even, I wouldn't mind changing it up. I mean, and having Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. But this is where my brain is going off into left field out of nowhere. I would have Trick Williams win. I would have Jacob Fatu win. See, Cody Rhodes, I would have him struggle. I would have him on this downhill spiral where it really takes the best of him out of this equation. And that start off with Jacob Fatu. And then Jacob Fatu is going to cause, maybe Cody wins, and then something that leads into Jacob Fatu losing that Jacob Fatu eliminating Cody at the Royal Rumble. And then we have Trick Williams win. I would have Drew McIntyre beat him. And then I would like to see Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez win. But this is where I think things will get interesting. A road to WrestleMania, a couple feuds I like to see. Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez has a feud. The Ultimate Judgment Day spill out. And guess what? Raquel Rodriguez has to be the special guest referee at WrestleMania. Wouldn't you like that? I would. I like Obafemi going up against Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, becoming your new WWE champion. I don't know what the plan is for Cody Rhodes, but doesn't look promising. Maybe we get that heel turn that we all want to see. But that is Saturday Night Main Event for you. Tomorrow night, available on Peacock at 8 p.m. I won't be watching it, but I will be back here next week to give you my thoughts about it. Alrighty, before we get into our next and final segment of the evening, I'd like to present and invite you out to the Artsville in Cincinnati, Ohio from February 27th through March 8th, and join Lighten Studios for their upcoming production, Grassroots. Grassroots, written and directed by Terry Chappell II is a fun, family, story-oriented, message-driven production about a family who moves into a neighborhood and has this encounter and experience. They take you through their journey and what struggles they went through. And it just happened to happen during the time frame of the 1950s where things weren't so vibrant. It was more, we still dealt with discrimination, and they see some of the effects by it. Inspired by a timelessness of fences and a raisin in the sun, Enlightened Studios' Grassroots will be set on a single stage set, vivid stage direction, and original music. Grassroots is a moving story about family, resilience, and the courage it takes to stand firm, one blade of grass at a time. We invite you to head out there and get your tickets today by visiting TicketTailor.com. A link will be provided in the description below. Alrighty. It is time to get into the conversations, and I just threw my highlighter. But look, we've been waiting for it. It finally happened. We saw John Harbaugh become the new head coach for the New York Giants, and the Ravens. We were just waiting exactly what direction they're going into, and they've decided to hire defensive coordinator Jesse Minter as their new head coach. He's a former Chargers defensive coordinator, and this is the Ravens' fourth head coach of the year, or of their franchise. So, one thing that I'm trying to understand, maybe I'm not the one who is favored in change. I do grasp a lot on what we know and what we don't know. And what we know is that the NFL at some point is changing. It's changing on from Mike Tomlin, changing on from Pete Carroll. John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh at some point will move on from that. And we got to bring in, just like we talk about in WWE, we got to bring in these new coaches. Figure out who's going to work and who's not. There's not much to go off of. Jesse Minter, I think, had a good run with the Chargers under Jim Harbaugh. Now it's time to step up and create a name for yourself. And this is the only way to do it. I agree, but I'm not so fond of it because it is change. You keep yourself defensive oriented. I think this is where you put in Lamar Jackson and you figure out what your offensive coordinator looks like, and you let them worry about. It's going to be a separation. You're going to be able to see the separation as the season progresses. I really do think. But I think this is a good opportunity for Jesse Minter. I think, this is a good learning point for the Ravens. And look, like we mentioned, this is the fourth head coach in franchise history. John Harbaugh just came off of 18 years with the organization. I don't think the Ravens, I don't think they're one of the teams, at least in my belief, that's just going to pick a head coach out of the blue and pray that it works. They do their homework. They do their background check. They investigate. And they want to make sure that their next head coach is the right one. They want him around for the next 5-10 years if possible. So what I say to that, though, is that Jesse Minter has some big shoes to fill. Think about that. Jesse Minter has to fill in a Super Bowl champion, a team, even though it was under Joe Flacco. 18 years as a head coach, several playoff appearances. Those are some big shoes. Whoever's replacing Mike Tomlin. Steelers don't fire head coaches. and you got to pray that you're good enough to not be fired. So we'll see, how does Zach Taylor, as we learn, level up to that. All right, now you got some challenge going your way, where it's going to be some interesting competition. Let's get into the first game of the weekend. Both games will be played on Saturday. This one will be aired on CBS at 3 p.m. The AFC Championship, as the number 2 New England Patriots take on the number 1 Denver Broncos. We learned that the Broncos will not have Bo Nix as their quarterback. They have announced that Jarrett Stidham will be starting for the Broncos, and hope that the Broncos prevail and head on to a Super Bowl. The Broncos, in my opinion, are the biggest underdogs in this conference championship match. The Patriots are 8-0 on the road. They have dominated defensively in both the wild card game and I would say in the divisional game. They have the advantage, I would also say, not only being undefeated, but for the fact that you don't have Bo Nix. But it's all not going to look too pretty for the Patriots. If you don't remember, Jarrett Stidham was drafted by the New England Patriots back in 2019 to serve as the backup quarterback under Tom Brady. He went on to the Las Vegas Raiders with Joe McDonald, and he was the backup for Derek Carr. And then when the Patriots requested him back during last year's offseason, but Stidham decided, hey, I'm going to reject that, and I'm going to stay in Denver as the backup quarterback of Bo Nix. And so now there's kind of this gripe game that you have created for Jarrett Stidham to stick it to the Steelers, saying, look, I apologize, but I'm going to beat you. Thank you for drafting me, but here's my spotlight to shine. Now, the good news is out of Denver, they're getting back. They're hoping to get back. It's still questionable, but J.K. Dobbins from foot surgery. And I truly believe that with a good run game, which is probably something the Broncos are going to depend on, and a good defense, they can help Stidham to win his second game of his career. He's only had 4 starts, 1 win. That was back in 2023 on December 31st. But he's filling in some big shoes here in Denver. But without being said, it goes up against a MVP caliber Drake May. Now, that MVP caliber has only taken place during the regular season. There's been some struggles that Drake May has had during the postseason. He's been sacked 10 times. He's thrown 2 interceptions and has fumbled 6 times, only recovering 3 of them. And Denver's led the league in sacks with 68. So when you ask about who do I think could win this game, it's hard to say. Well, it's up in the air. Is it not? You have what type of performance are we going to get from Drake May? Is he going to return back to his MVP caliber, or is he going to continue the performance we've seen along with his offensive line and rely on the defense to stop Stidham and the Broncos offense? If they could have that run game going, if Dobbin comes back and he's ready to go and he's lights out, the Broncos have a chance of walking through. I think after some reflection, I've been going for the Patriots all week long. What turns the point here is seeing Drake May and his playoff attributes. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that the Patriots and Drake May could get back to that stamina where he once was. And if that's the case, then I think they're going to comfortably win this game. But you're going into Denver. You're going into a high altitude. And I think the Broncos are a little bit more put together and a little bit more consistent up front than what they've had. And therefore, I have to go with the Broncos running away with this win and going to the Super Bowl. The Seattle Seahawks host the Los Angeles Rams at 6:40, the number 5 versus the number 1 seed for the NFC Championship. Now, I've said this. I feel like Sean McVay has been lucky. Matthew Stafford has struggled. He has not played the way he has played all season long. And Seattle, and I would be intimidated for the Seahawks if I saw what I saw last weekend. Not just an electric flying crowd, but they took full advantage of what we saw. Now, the good news is that both teams have seen each other. They both split a series. The Rams, who beat Sam Darnold back in November 21-19, had 4 interceptions against Sam Darnold during that game. But it was the Rams who recently pulled away with the victory. Or Seahawks who really pulled away with the victory recently. In this last game, which was won by overtime by the Seahawks, the Rams did put up 581 yards, but they lost. Seahawks without running back Zach Charbonnet with the knee injury. He'll be out this game. But he led the Seahawks with 12 touchdowns and 730 yards. When I look into this game, I gotta choose I can't go favorite. I gotta go what I see on the field. And the Seahawks are the most recent dominant. Despite the Rams' offensive effort, it's the defense. It's the Seahawks who have the upper advantage in this one. And because of that, I got the Seahawks winning. So, who do you guys have going forward this weekend? I want to hear your comments in the below. This will wrap up our show for the week. As I mentioned to you before, I am uncertain about what's to come Monday and Tuesday as weather inclements are headed our way over the weekend. Everything's going to be fine. It's under the conditions of daycare, school being out for the week. It's also under the conditions of who's going to be home and what type of internet service I have. So I will keep you posted on social media. Please follow us on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. Stay up to date with all of our information moving forward. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay dry, stay safe. And until then, enjoy this weekend of sports. Have a good one.